I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
And this is the Vin and Sori Underground Show.
You ready for this?
Yesterday's Underground Show was like way under. Like in the underworld. Like hell.
Like hell.
That's where we were.
Oh no.
This is Porcupine Tree. This is a band that if we didn't have the Underground Show would never be reviewed.
Nope.
Because there's literally thousands of requests and, it's just natural selection, man. There's no way. Mm-hmm. But because we have the awesome Underground Show, bands like Porcupine Tree are going to get a hearing. Mm-hmm. And so here we go. Porcupine Tree. This song is Halo. And have you ever heard of this band before?
No.
I've never heard of this band before. I've heard all the other ones. Tool, Slipknot.
What do you think the name of the band means?
Porcupine Tree? I don't know. I mean, like a tree, but the leaves are quills.
Wouldn't that be like a cactus?
No, it'd be like a tree, but the leaves are quills of a porcupine instead of a thing. That's how I interpret it. But I'm sure
I've seen a tree like that where it had like these pointy.
I'm sure we have some porcupine tree specialists who will be able to explain
let us know
the real meaning. They'd be like, actually,
it's not a cactus.
Actually. All right. So Porcupine, I'm actually pretty excited to hear this song because when there's a band that I've never heard of before, and then there's like consistent like here. I mean, it's not like Tool or whatever.
Right.
But you're getting like consistent requests. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, let's hear it. Let's hear what these guys bring to the table, and we're off. Do you feel cool?
I like it.
Makes you feel cool, right? Walking down the street.
Out of my way.
God is
Porcupine Tree. That was interesting, like musically. So like at the end when you hear the
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's a standard 1994 riff that everybody does, and then you just add a little variation to it.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this is standard. But then in the second half of the song, they did they added the piano little thingies, which seemed completely random, but fit. Like the I thought it fit, and I loved the second half of the song musically more than the first half of the song. The first half of the song was actually putting me to sleep, to be honest with you. Sorry, Porcupine fans, but then like the middle with the solo or whatever that was, which it just seemed kind of disorganized and like random, but I actually liked it music wise. What are you thinking? I'm not feeling like you're a very big fan of Porcupine Tree.
No, I'm not. You
Yeah.
know, I want to like it for the people that suggested
For
it.
your
but
people?
the beginning, I kind of like where it was starting, like how it started out, and then toward the middle,
that
I was like,
line?
yeah. But then toward the middle, I was like, nah. And then at the end, I liked how the ending was kind of going again. But in the middle, which is the majority of the song, I was like, eh.
Yeah, the piano at the end was kind
And
of
I
like
was
Trent
like, where-
Reznor-ish.
I was looking for the poetry. I'm like, where's the poetry?
Yeah, I don't think with a band named Porcupine Tree, you're gonna get a lot of lyricism, babe. I don't think that this is like that's
you
not
know what
their
the
shtick.
thing is, but I don't
That's
I
not
don't
their-
assume that by the name. I assume that everything should be poetic because I like poetry. So when it's not,
What?
I'm like, wait, the Sori doesn't approve.
All right, what did you think of? Okay, what
The
did
lyrics
you,
were-
the lyrics were pretty.
I mean,
Okay, go ahead.
they seem pretty cut and dry. I'm just not. Well, maybe not. Maybe that's
Really?
that's my
What
part
did you
wrong.
think the song was about?
Well, like, it's kind of a tricky topic. It sounds like God is in everything, regardless if it's like he's saying God is in my fingers, God is in my head, God is in the trigger, God is in the lead. It sounds like he's gonna like God is in all of that. He just goes through a bunch of different things, saying that God is in everything.
You don't
and I
see
don't
the
know-
significance of that line, although that segment right there.
The significance,
Yeah.
as in somebody's gonna kill themselves, and God is in every detail of it. What are you talking about?
No, I think he's gonna kill someone. God is in my fingers, presumably the trigger finger.
Yeah.
God is in my head,
Yeah.
telling him to shoot the guy. God is in the trigger. God is in the lead. Phew.
So I didn't see him pointing it out. I saw him pointing it in. That's why the God is in my head.
No, I think this is.
Just
What do you think the overall theme of the song is?
It seems to me like, you know how people will be like, God is he's in everything. Like,
Pantheist sort of.
yeah, like kind of seem like that sort of idea where God is in everything. And I didn't know, it says God is fashion, God is fame. I didn't know, that's not saying God is in fashion. That's saying that he is fashion, he is fame. So I didn't know if he's saying like, I don't know, like there's a God in everything. And
Well, I think what he's saying is that there are, you know, people can make a religion out of fashion. People can worship fashion. People can worship fame.
so do you think
People
that,
can worship.
do you think he's coming from his own point of view, or is he speaking about everybody else's point of
Well,
view?
I think it's observational. I think
Okay.
he's observing human beings and saying, you know, God is freedom, God is truth, God is power, God is proof. And he said, God is fashion, God is fame. You have some people who are in the fashion subculture that's their entire life. And then fame for other people, that's their entire life. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? And then...
So so you're saying he doesn't literally think that fame is God, but that because people idolize it, it becomes a god? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. Yeah, and it gives their life meaning, but it also gives their life pain. God gives meaning, God gives pain. What's interesting is, I don't think...
Why is it so hot in this room?
What? It's nothing to do with anything.
I know, but it's hot in here,
So
man. Like,
random
why
and
do you have to
unprofessional. Good
open
night.
the window?
So God is freedom, God is truth, God is power, God. That line right there, God is proof, is very interesting to me. Because it speaks to this concept of, you know, how we know what we know. Right?
Okay.
So like, for example, if you say, what's your proof of God?
Yeah.
The ultimate proof of God is God himself. Like,
Yeah.
if you say, well, look at the complexity of the universe.
Mhm.
Well, that doesn't literally prove there's a God.
Right.
I would say, to me, when I look at the complexity of the universe, I go, okay, well, the most likely thing is that God created it. But that's not literal proof that there's a God just because there's a universe.
I remember you would always ask people, like, okay, well, what would God have to do to prove that he was actually existed? And they'd be like, well, if he rolled back the clouds.
Right.
Almost everybody said the same answer. He rolled back the clouds and said, I am God. And then you'd be like, how would you, there was always this funny response like, yeah, but couldn't that just...
How would you know it's not just an advanced alien life form who understands that your perception of God is that he's a white guy with a beard that hangs out on a cloud?
Right. And they were like...
And there's no way to empirically prove otherwise. Right? So, like, I had a chance to talk to Seth, forgot what his last name was, pretty famous atheist guy. And I said, I asked him that question. And he said, do you remember the guy's last name? No. Anyway.
But I remember you talking to him.
Pretty famous atheist guy. And I asked him that question. And he said something to the effect of, yeah, Seth Andrews is the guy's name. I was able to have a conversation with him. And he basically said, well... he goes, yeah, that's true. There'd be no way to know if the thing in the sky was God or not. That's true. Because he had previously said, well, let God open the sky and then I'll believe in him. And then I said, well, how would you know? And he's like, well, no, you're right. There'd be no way to empirically prove that. Mm-hmm. So, like, the only way to, as far as proof goes, to believe in God is that, you know, God himself is a proof of himself, you know, and immediately a person's going to go, well, that's circular.
I was just going to say
that's circular reasoning. Of course, if I were to talk to an atheist and I were to say, how do you know there's not a God? Because an agnostic says, I don't know if there's a God or not. And, you know, there's a scale where a person could say, I don't know there's a God, but I'm very convinced that there isn't one. Mm-hmm. That's agnosticism, which a lot of, like, folks are going to now. But then atheism is to say that there is no God.
Right.
And they run into the same problem that I run into, which is, how can you say definitively there's no God?
Right.
How could you say that? Then the only way you could actually definitively make that statement in a concrete way is for you to be an omniscient person.
And then would you be God?
In which case you would be God. In which case you would be God. So I'm using God as its own proof, and you're using your unbelief as its own proof. Because the only thing that can sustain atheism is unbelief itself.
Right.
And the only thing that can sustain theism is belief itself. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, I always tell people go, you're just assuming that there's a God. I'm like, absolutely, and you're assuming there isn't one. So let's just be honest about our belief. Both our beliefs, when you strip them down, are both circular.
Right.
Right? And then...
No, for real.
And so you got to say, okay, one, you know, there's a vicious circle and there's a righteous circle and whatever, and a virtuous circle. And we'll do a podcast. But the line, God is proof, is amazing to me. Because he's not saying there's proof for God. He's saying God is the proof. So that's very interesting. But so the chorus, you can be right like me with God in a whole, you're a righteous soul. What do you think that is?
Well, I don't know. I don't know if he was...
Go ahead.
I don't know if he was like serious about what he was saying, or if he was kind of like making fun of, because you know, like, because he kept saying, I got a halo. He almost made it sound like I'm above everybody because I have a halo.
He says I'm gaining in height.
I'm gaining in height now. Yeah. Like, I don't know.
I'm above you. I got my chair. Oh no, my chair just sunk. Hello,
I don't know if he really feels above them, or if he's like talking about the religious people who believe that they're above people. With God in with God in the whole, you're a righteous soul, because you know, like, okay, I got God in my corner, so man, I'm perfect and blah blah blah. Instead of like we all do dirt, you know, like nobody's perfect.
Speak for yourself, woman.
I married you. I know you're not perfect.
You listen to Opeth. I know you're not perfect.
No, that was my reason for knowing that you're not perfect, is because you didn't like it. This is
because I understand art and I understand scales and music theory, and you don't. Yeah, I think that this to me sounds like I've found it, I've understood everything, I'm righteous, and you know, I've got a halo around me,
right, and
I'm above you.
So, okay, so you think it's speaking about all, like, religious whatever, because all religious people that, you know, they always think, even if they say they're not religious, they still feel like they're above other people. Like, some people that they don't really have a religion, but they're like, well, you know, like, I just like to experience, you know, like, and it's not really, like, there's nothing solid, and they're not coming from any standard. They're kind of like making it up in their head as they go along. But they when they're talking to you, they sound like they're above you because you have an organized religion and they don't.
Well, yeah. You know, one of my principles in life is that you find out what a group really believes when they're talking to themselves, not when they're talking to you. So when a group is talking, when they're having their internal dialogue, that's what they really believe. And I'm sorry, atheists. Now, the atheists in our community are awesome.
I know.
Because pretty much every single, even the Satanists in our community.
I know.
Like the Satanists in our community are like more Christ-like than.
I know.
A lot of the Christians we know. That's so terrible. What the hell?
Oh no!
All the Behemoth fans are like coming up out of Gehenna saying, "Well, you guys did a good job with your interpretation."
I know, it's so
I'm gonna
funny
go
too
down now and shovel some more.
Most of the most of the time, like I publish a video and like within a few minutes, there's like one thumbs down. Behemoth went like a really long time before there was a thumbs down. I was like, there must be.
It was a Christian.
No, you're probably right.
It's a Christian that thumbed us down.
I judgeth thou.
Boom. Then that's them sending you to hell too. But so aside from the atheists in our little subculture that we're all creating together, you atheists generally, when y'all get together, there is sort of this like deconversion, like, these people still believe in God and Jesus, and it's sort of like this very condescending, we're like intellectually above everybody, and anybody with a brain wouldn't believe in God. So just like, you know, when people convert to Christianity and then, you know, they get very zealous and they're like, you gotta believe what I believe. And of course, this is a conflict that we deal with because our faith tells us we gotta share our faith with other people. But the minute that you do that, you automatically get branded as a person who thinks they're above everybody, right? Mm-hmm. But then you have atheists when they deconvert and they feel like they've seen the light because now they've opened up to reality. They're just as condescending and stupid as this song here. No, seriously.
So you think it's a human nature thing then?
I think that this guy probably had some sort of experience or something with some probably Christian and wrote this song, but I also think that it applies anytime you convert, anytime you change. I was listening to this guy one time, his name was Anthony Flew, and he called it conversion trauma. And so anytime you shift your paradigm like that, it becomes extremely traumatic. It's traumatic to you because now it's like the Matrix. Now you got to look at the world from a completely different lens. And so nobody wants to do that by themselves. Right. And so what drives a lot of people trying to convert other people is they want other people to agree that this new way of looking at the world is the right way because they don't want to do it by themselves. Really? So that's the theory about, conversion trauma. But I think there's a ton of truth to that.
I think there's some truth to it.
What do you think?
But the thing is, you know what? I was religious all my life, so how can I even make the call on that? I didn't have a paradigm.
Yeah, you've never had any conversion
so that's
trauma.
True. That's true.
Well, you did.
Yeah, you did when you started teaching me some stuff.
Yeah, you did. When you became the whole Calvinist argument. Yeah, she used to believe in free will and all that stuff, and then you didn't, and then you wanted everybody to believe what you believed.
Yeah, but that's not because I thought that. That's not because I didn't want to go through it by myself. But that's because I was like, oh, this is freaking liberating. Everybody should have this. That's why I was doing it.
No, you weren't. You were not. You were not like going around being.
You were not there when I was in the conversations that broke relationships.
Yeah, because you were so liberated. But no,
because I was so zealous about
but
it.
It's okay.
People were like, yo, chill.
So that's
and I'm looking at their body language, but I'm like, no, they really need to hear this.
Yeah, well, that's the other side of it, right? So let's say that I grew up in oppressive religion that you grew up in, right? And then I was thoroughly convinced that atheism was sort of the way out.
Okay.
From the way that you grew up.
Okay.
And all the pathologies and stuff that you developed due to your crazy I don't say your crazy upbringing, but the hurtful things in your upbringing.
Yeah.
Because you're a pretty awesome person, so your parents did a damn good job with you. So let's say that a person really believes that atheism is the way out. Mm-hmm. So then they come to you and try to convert you because they love you. So they're you got these terrible mindsets, blah blah blah. be an atheist like me, and then we'll party and we'll
Mhm.
do DMT and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, so this is what I'm saying is like the conflict with conversion is that on the
It's
one
not the
hand,
same thing.
what do you mean it's not the same thing?
You were just saying that the reason that people do it is because they don't want to go through the conversion thing themselves and experience the paradigm shift for themselves. So they want to
No.
bring somebody along with them.
No, what I'm saying is that is a theory.
Yeah.
I said Anthony Flew had a theory about
Uh-huh.
conversion. He called it conversion trauma. What I'm saying, though, is that the way when a person comes to try to convert us, we usually get defensive, like the person in this song, and go, "Oh, you've got some halo."
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And my thing is, what if the atheist really is feeling like it's the best thing for you?
I'm sure that they do.
So exactly. Like, I'm sure the folks in our community, if they could sit down with us and say, "Look, man," you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sure, if somebody would open to it, we'd be like, "Oh yeah, join Christianity."
Yeah, that's why I'm saying I disagree with that guy. I don't think that they would be telling us because they want us to go on the paradigm switch with them because they're afraid to do it themselves. I think it's that they think it's liberating.
Well, I think it depends on the person. I think some people it's conversion trauma, and some people I think they're doing it because they think it's the way to freedom. It doesn't have
to be one or the other.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be one or the other. I think it's the way to freedom. But I think this is a conundrum we all find ourselves in because all of us feel like there. Here's the crazy thing about life: like all of us feel like there's a right way to live and a wrong way to live.
Yeah.
So if your son was like robbing banks every day, you would try to convert him into non-bank robbery.
Right.
Right? And then he'd say, "Do you think you're better than me?" "Yes, you're freaking robbing banks. Yes, I do believe I'm better than you. Stop it. Stop being a bank robber. What the hell is wrong with you? Do you have any money?" So yeah, but I think he ran into but I think it's very the writing here is very simple, but I also think it's very interesting. Like God is on the cell phone, God is on the net. I spend so many hours a day on this thing, especially since we started the channel.
Uh-huh.
I spend more time in this than my Bible, I'll tell you that. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
God is on the net, God is in the warning, God is in the threat, and the way media basically has now become sort of like this divine figure in the lives of people, and we're all sort of like jacked into the internet.
Oh yeah, I know. People wake right up. First thing they do is reach for their phones.
That's the first thing I do.
I know.
So I've got a halo.
Oh, there he goes.
That's not true. Because I need more than 4 hours of sleep or whatever it is that you always complain about. So every time I wake up, you're not even conscious. You're like
You're right.
You're still in your
something covering my eyes.
Get out of here. Yeah, you not only do you have your blanket, like you completely shut me out of your life. Like I turn around and Sori's got like a ninja thing over her face so that she doesn't even have to see the world. And this one, how the hell do you know what I do in the morning? Get out of here.
Because I hear you staring around and I'm like,
right.
Halfway
and
from
that's your signal to put the cover over your head and
I wait a few seconds.
Leave me be even more. Thank you very much, Sori, for that. I appreciate it.
I can't do only 4 hours a night.
You're okay.
Give me at least 6.
So the song kind of to me is deeper than it portrays itself to be.
Okay, well,
I think
once we're talking through it, it definitely is deeper than I was.
God is proof. Epistemology, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna have a podcast about epistemology. People walk around feeling so confident in what they know, and they've not really thought about how do they know what they know. Like, think about it.
We're gonna challenge you.
Yeah. Could you be wrong about everything you claim to know? Okay.
Think about what he just said. Rewind it. Listen again.
You just surrendered knowledge. I'm sure some of them know where that's coming from. Okay, so I think that this song is actually extremely thoughtful and subtly brilliant, is what I think.
Oh wow.
I don't think you're gonna rate this song very highly. What's your rating?
6.
Subhanallah.
I almost want to give it 5 because Behemoth I thought was better,
but
I didn't like how
Behemoth was obviously better.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So
I feel like it's not right to put them on the same.
On the same.
But then the other one was worship. Had the worship of Satan.
Yeah, we couldn't give the ode to Satan anything more than a 6.
I know.
So what are you gonna give this one?
I give it 5.5.
I'm gonna give it a 7 because I like the way they ended the song. I like the little piano thing at the end. I thought that it was. I feel like these guys. I feel like these guys, and this is just one song, but I feel like these guys are the really smart kid in class who just goofs off for whatever reason, but like are very, very smart. And I feel like these guys are smarter musically, sonically, and lyrically than they're putting out. So I'm gonna give it
when we hear more of their songs,
give it a 7.
We'll.
Yep. So 7 and 5 is 12.
That other one was like 14 minutes, so maybe.
It was 17 minutes.
Or 17 minutes. Maybe.
Porcupine Tree, ladies and gentlemen. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.